Hi, my name is Roger Grape, and I'm going to share with you a few of the things out of my memory box, and then I'm going to tell you a story about one of them. The first item I'm going to share with you is this little picture. It's a painting, actually, that I got when I was in Rome a few years ago, and I bought this from a street artist who I had to haggle with for about 15 minutes because I didn't have very many euros left in my pocket, and he didn't want to part with it. So I'm lucky that I have it, and I really should frame it. On that same trip, we were lucky enough to be able to climb up and then back down Mount Vesuvius, and so on the way down I got a little souvenir. I also keep these leashes, or collars rather, and some tags that belong to our German Shepherds that are no longer with us. And I save these just because we have such fond memories of those dogs. And this item is the item that I'm going to tell you a story about. Let me explain to you why I own the business end of a rattlesnake. Back in 1960-something, when I was just a toddler, my dad and I were visiting some friends who lived on a ranch outside of Austin in the Texas Hill Country. Now, to get to this ranch, it was about a half-mile off of the highway, and you had to drive down this dusty, windy road that had prickly pear and mountain cedar and live oaks on both sides of it. And you would eventually get to the ranch house, which was a fairly large house, and they had a pretty big yard that had St. Augustine grass. Well, on this particular day, my dad and his friend Bill, who owned the ranch, were outside barbecuing. And Bill's wife was inside cooking also. And evidently, as a toddler, I really liked to explore my world. And so my dad said I was getting fidgety, and he let me down. Now, you also need to know that this was August in Texas, which meant that it was as dry as straw and as hot as a branding iron. So baby Roger is in nothing but a diaper, okay? So I'm crawling around on this lawn, and I eventually make my way over to the opposite end of the lawn from where my dad was. And of course my dad was saying, I had one eye on you and one eye on the barbecue. Okay, Dad. Anyway, I started giggling so loud that my dad turned around and he was wondering, what is Roger giggling at? So he started to make his way across the lawn, and about halfway across the lawn he heard this. And he knew well what it was, and he froze in his tracks. And he looked, and he saw about 3 feet away from me the rattlesnake that I was evidently having a conversation with. And it was really making me laugh to hear this. I was a toddler. So my dad, thankfully, was good in an emergency. So he walked up very quietly and slowly behind me. And he snatched me up so quick he thought I was going to get whiplash. Turned on a dime around and ran the opposite direction. And yelled to Bill, "Bill, rattlesnake! Go get something to kill it with!" So Bill ran into the garage and got a garden hoe and gave it to my dad. And it was off with his head for the rattlesnake. So, sorry rattlesnake, but it was either you or me. And my dad wanted a souvenir of this adventure, so he took what was left of the rattlesnake to a taxidermist. And the taxidermist said, there is really not much here that you could even make a boot with. But he did leave him with this. And my dad passed it down to me. So I do owe my dad thanks again for saving my life. And thanks for the rattle. And thanks to you for listening to my story.